Okay, so I've been talking to myself for 2 minutes. Hello, this is the pre-show, and this is why I do a pre-show, because this is how I work out all the bugs. I didn't realize I still had the mic turned off. Okay, so just to get you up to date, yes, Mare was supposed to be doing all the shows this month, but something came up last minute on her, so I have jumped in, which means that we're going to be doing a slightly different topic, but a topic I think you guys are going to find really interesting. And I think it's going to be the kind of help that you really come to us to look for, the practical, I need solutions today kind of thing. So what I'm going to show you tonight is going to be a hands-on project that I think most of us are using or need to use pretty much at some point in every project we work on. So that's what we're going to do. You may notice also that my setup looks a little bit different here. I got a new camera and I'm trying to work that into the flow, but I'm also trying to take advantage of the fact I have more than one camera, because eventually I'd like to do close-ups. Now obviously I need to work on lighting and that kind of stuff over here, but the idea is that at some point, when we need to do close-up kind of stuff, I'd be able to do that here. So that is the end goal. We are not there yet, but that's okay. We will get there eventually. Let me just see if everybody is coming online here. Try that. We'll do this one. I should make sure that the sound is off on this puppy here. I'm not sure it is. One sec. Let me make sure I got the sound off. So this is my Chromebook. We're watching comments on here, but let me just make sure that there is no sound. Okay, no sound. That's good. Last thing you need is to hear me 3 or 4 times, or to hear me tapping on the keyboard or what have you. So, oops. That's not going to work. Okay, so how is everybody doing? Is everybody having a chaotic... I mean, this is August. Usually things get slow, right? And gives you a chance to get caught up on things. That doesn't seem to be the case this month. I don't know why. Is that just us, or is that happening everywhere? Is everybody kind of up in the air? Oh, Adam, hi. How you doing? Okay, thank goodness. Oh, the sound? Yeah, do you like the show better with sound, Adam? Okay, I'm on board with that. Sorry about that. All right, let me check YouTube and see if those fine folks are okay. I think we have it up here. Okay. Yes, Canal, thank you so much for letting me know about the audio. Yes, thank you. You saved me. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, and then let me just check Periscope and see if we have these folks up and running. And actually, I need to bring them up. I still can only get Periscope comments on my phone. I don't know why. I know I should be grateful that it's working anywhere. It just seems a little weird. Whoops. That it's only, see, this is what I mean by double audio. You don't really need that. Okay. All right, Murphy, be a good boy. Okay. All right. We are on. We are actually a little past 8 o'clock, so we're going to dive in. Is everybody ready? We're going to do this by the seat of our pants. Okay. Right. So, all right. So, let me start the show. Would that be good? I should start the show officially. Hello, Murph. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. You are watching the BA Zone Live. My name is Kathleen. My co-host, Mare, is supposed to be doing the show tonight. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here, so last minute we have switched everything up. This is the nice thing about having a co-host, is you can play tag. So tonight I have tagged in for you, and we're going to be talking about how BAs can create basically quick and dirty wireframes, comps, depending on how you classify them, really cheap and quick. So just to kind of level set for everybody, traditionally, and hopefully you have somebody on staff, you really should have a UI person and a UX person. Sometimes that's one person. The UI person is sort of a version of a graphic designer, but they focus on making things work on the visually on the web, on your mobile devices, all that kind of thing. The UX person is more about the overall user experience. So how the website, how the application, how the app works for people. Is it presenting them the information they need at the right time? Is it hopefully not making the person do work that the computer should be doing for them, that kind of thing. And a lot of times that's a blended role, which is fine. But when you can get, people who are focused on things, that's even better. But not every project has that kind of money. So some projects I know don't have either one of those, blended or not. And so it falls into the hands of the BA to step in and do it. Now, even in the case where you do have somebody that is designated as UI, UX, you're going to find that there are times where you're just going to need to do something quick and dirty to communicate an idea. So that's what we're going to show you tonight. Me and Murphy are going to show you that tonight. It's just a real handy way that anybody basically can jump in and do these kind of things. Now, a wireframe typically is just that. It is usually black and white, wire lines, boxes, circles, X's, just to show positioning and layout. It's not really supposed to provide an in-depth view of what the view of that page or app view is going to be. Then usually go to the next level, which is comps, which is either black and white or maybe shades of gray, and eventually, high fidelity ones would be some color. But again, they're still just graphical representations of what it is that people will be interacting with. And then, if you eventually get all the way, sometimes you do prototyping, where you just do a quick, HTML kind of version, or, an app version of the thing that's not really wired to anything, but just to get a feel for how it's going to interact and flow through. So we're going to cover one that tends to happen, which is sort of the hybrid wireframe comp, which is just a quick grab something that exists and move some things around to communicate the new idea. I'm going to be using a tool called Snagit, and actually I should bring up their site. Now, you don't need to use this particular one, and I do want to make it clear that, we're not sponsored by them. We don't get any money for mentioning them. The reason I mention them is because this is hands down my favorite tool. I have used this tool forever. Let me bring this up. And so that's the only reason I'm mentioning it to you. Sorry, Murphy just moved. It's a really handy little tool. You get a free trial. So if you're curious, you can try it out. But basically, you can do this process with any tool that you have at your disposal that works. There's basically two pieces to it. One, you need something that can do a screen capture, and two, you need something that does some very basic image editing. I mean, you can really use MS Paint if you want to. I'm just going to show you why I like this tool in a second. But let me see. I'm just curious now because I don't remember what the current price is because I just keep upgrading. Oh, there's pricing. So it's $50. Okay, so it's really not terribly expensive. Not free, but it's not expensive. And my point of view on this is, when somebody makes a tool this awesome at such a good price, I'm more than happy to pay for it. But like I said, there's a free trial, so you can jump in and give it a test drive should you find it interesting. Okay, so let me just do a quick check-in. I want to make sure everybody is up now because all the different ones start a little bit different times. But it looks like we are good. Jason, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. No team today, just me and, it's team me and Murphy today. All right, looks we are good. Okay, I'm going to just mute the mic for a second. Okay, you didn't need to hear that. I didn't need to hear that. I'm living it. All right, so are we ready? Does this sound interesting? You're ready to dive in? If this is interesting, give me a big yes. If not, give me a big no. I can handle it. I'm a big girl. But we are going to get started. So let me get this out of the way. Let me get my pieces in place. All right, we'll put that there. Okay, all right, so, whoops, there we go. Basically, this is Snagit. So it's just this little tool. You can do all kinds of different combinations of things. You can actually record video, like your on-screen video, which sometimes is really handy if you're trying to communicate either a problem in a process, or if you're trying to show maybe the developer a bug that you're having. Sometimes it's helpful for them to see the process. But all we're going to focus right now is on images. We're just going to take screen captures. Now, in this tool, you've got a bunch of different options here. We're going to start off with just, we'll start off with window just so I can show you how it works. Oops, let me put that underneath there. Okay, so let me bring up. So I figured we'd pick on Amazon, right? They're a big guy. Everybody's seen them. So I figured it's a good one to kind of get everybody up to speed on it. So first I'm just going to show you real quick the basic minimum screen capture that you're going to need to do, and that would be to just grab this area here. Okay, so in Snagit, you would come in, it would be window. You don't have to worry about any of these things. You would just hit capture and come over here, and you see how you've got like the little lines around the screen, like a lot of people call them marching ants. It's marquee is the technical term for it. So all you have to do, once you get that, that's the area that it's going to actually take the picture of, and you can click, and it brings it up in the editor. Super simple, right? And there's a ton of screen capture programs out there that will do that. Frankly, you can do it with, what's it called? I'm looking at the keyboard. Print screen. Print screen will do that too. The whole trick with print screen is if you hit print screen, it's going to give you the whole screen, first of all. So you might need to edit some stuff out. But you need to remember, before you do another one, to paste that image into your editor so that you don't lose it, because the print screen only keeps, one in memory. All right, so this is just your basic one. I'm just going to show you a couple of the quick tools that I like in this. There's a bunch of different ones. Like, for example, you've got all the arrows. So like if you wanted to, let's say there was a big old typo here, you know, you could highlight it for people if you wanted to make it really obvious. Let me make sure it's selected. And then you could come over here and you could boost the width of it and make it gigantic. So to really make your point if you want. I mean, it can go really big. But the one that you're going to use the most is the selection tool. So that's the one that's right up here. It's that little dotted line box. And what it'll do is, you know, you can come in and you can grab a piece and you can move it around. You can delete it, make it come back, all that kind of stuff. Oops, make that go away again. Okay, so I mean, that at a real high level, that's the basics. One of the super cool things about this tool is over here on the right, and I'm probably covering it. So let me just bring up the desktop alone. Okay. So over here is your tools palette, okay? And the thing that I want to point out to you are these ones, the background fill. So you've got transparent and you've got autofill. If you select autofill, okay, so that it looks like this, and then you come over here and you delete something, isn't that magic? Every time I do that, I'm so happy. Because if you don't have this turned on, let me go back, just so you can compare. Oops, I keep bringing that guy back. Okay, so if I go back to selection, if you leave it on transparent, which is the default setting, and you remove this, which you might have noticed before, it'll cut a hole basically in your image, okay, which may be what you want to do. So this is why having both options is really handy. But if that isn't what you want to do and you have a tool that does not have the autofill, the quote-unquote easiest way to fix this, let me bring me back. Yeah, the quote-unquote easiest way to fix this, if you don't have a tool that does the background fill, which, by the way, is one of the reasons I love Snagit, what you have to do is you have to, like, come here and grab, like, a piece of the background that's the same and do a copy and then a paste and then come in and, like, patchwork this in to fill it in. You know, you can certainly do this, but it is a bit time-consuming. So I'm just doing copy-paste. So I'm just pasting, and I mean, it will fill in the background. Now, it's a harder, you know, thing to do if you've got gradations and that kind of stuff. But if you don't have, if you're not using Snagit, basically, that's how you would fill in, is you would just come and grab a piece of the background, copy and paste it to fill in the back. You know, 6 1/2 dozen the other. It's certainly functional. It certainly works. But it's going to take you a little bit longer than if you are using something like this, where you can just say autofill and grab it and say go away. And, whoop, I didn't have it in right. Wait, one sec. That was my fault, not the tool. Okay, so I've got autofill. Yes. And I do this, and I say delete, and it fills it in. Now, it left a little bit of the shadow there, so you might need to go in and clean up a little bit. And again, you can just do that with the old copy paste. But most of the time, it works seamless. Every once in a while, if you're overlapping something else, you'll get a little strange line, and you can just, you know, undo it and try it again, or you can just do a fill in, whatever's easier. Alrighty, so I am just going to get us going here on the real thing. So let's see, okay. Alright, so let's do something that's more realistic. So let's say that you're working at Amazon and the business has decided, whoops, need a little more room here. The business has decided that they don't like the way the footer is set up, okay, and they want to have the help you as the first one and these other 3 to shift over. This is a fairly common kind of thing, you know, rearranging functionality or elements on the page, that type of thing. So in this case, this is a pretty simple one, but let's just run through it so you get a feel for how it works. So we are going to, let me see, I think I do this in pip. So I think we're gonna leave some window, but let's use a different one. We're gonna do region, just to show you the different functionality. So you come over here and say capture. Now again, you get the little marching ants, but you see now we have the crosshairs. And this is because now it's going to let me select as much or as little as I want, and it will even automatically. So these here, it'll scroll in whatever direction you tell it to grab whatever, but I'm just going to grab this piece because this is all I need. So I'm just going to drag it until I get it where I want it, release it, and then it puts me in the editor. Pretty easy, right? Okay, so for this one, again, the goal was to move the help you to the first column and move the other 3 over. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that I have autofill turned on. And then I'm going to grab this piece here. Now you have to think a little bit ahead, because the point of this task is that we're going to move this piece here all the way over. So I don't want to grab a huge piece because it's not going to fit. Because you see, like if I have all this space here, there's not space for that here. So you're going to want to grab the appropriate amount of whatever your target is. So I'm going to make this pretty tight. Okay, and then I am going to, what should I do for this one? I'm going to cut this one. So I'm going to do, oops. I should do it this way. Okay, so I'm going to select cut, and it moves it out. So to get that, let me just go back again. All I did was I right-clicked on the active area that I had selected, and it shows me your options, because I know not everybody uses keyboard controls, plus I don't have my close-up, so you can't see me doing the keyboard controls, so we'll do it this way. So I just went in here, so these are the things that I can do right now with this active selection. So I'm going to cut it, because I need this space to be open. So now what's happened is the computer is holding this on what it calls the clipboard. So it's sitting there waiting for me to do something. Now you have to be careful, because if you do a couple of these, sometimes that means that you end up losing what you put up there. But you know, we've only done the one, so we're okay. So now I'm going to grab this other piece. And again, I don't want to get too tight, but I don't want to have oceans of space around it either. So I'm going to grab these. Okay, and I'm just going to, it's all highlighted now. And I don't really need to right click, because I'm not going to select an option. All I'm going to do is shift this over. Okay, and then I click outside of it and it's there. Now I can come back and I can do a paste, and I can put the piece where it needs to be. Now, you know, in this kind of a situation, you're going to be doing a lot of eyeballing. Okay, you're not going to worry about, you know, whether it's a pixel perfect, you know, spacing and all that kind of stuff, because the point for us is not to create the requirement this way, although sometimes that is what you're going to end up doing just because of necessity. If your UX team is busy, you don't have one, whatever. But as much as possible, try to get it to look right, but don't freak out too much about, you know, well, okay, should it be this space or that space, or is it alignment? And the more you do this, the better you'll get at just eyeballing it. Like, I've been doing this for a while, so like if you come here, you can kind of check your spacing, see if everything kind of lines up the way you want it to. And you can see the section I just moved is a little bit low. Now, in 99% of the situations, that's going to be fine. But because I am who I am, I'm going to move it up a little bit. And you can do that just with the keyboard. You can make very fine movements. So, see, this is why I need this at the camera. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and press the up, and it's going to just shift it up a little bit. And I do that a couple of times, and I think I probably have it a little bit closer now. And what I'm doing here is I'm using the selection tool as sort of a ruler to see if everything lines up. And sure enough, by just moving it up a little bit, now it's in much better alignment. Now you're good. You can save this. You can come in and do a save as, and save it down, you know, to your desktop or to a folder or whatever, and then attach it to your document or send an email or whatever. But it really is that easy to rearrange elements, you know, and maybe, you know, take some of the load off of your UX team if they're swamped. So that's one example of the types of things that you can do. Pretty easy, super helpful. And it, just so you know, in Snagit, you can set it up so that it will save your previous captures and that kind of stuff. But just for safety's sake, because sometimes the library does fail me, I always come in here and do a save as and put it down someplace. I'm not sure what's going to come up here, so I'm not going to actually show that. Okay? So pretty easy, right? Pretty simple. And I'm just going to check, see if anybody has any questions so far. It looks like we're good. Check over on poor Periscope. I wish they would kind of let us do more for you folks. All right, so we're good. Oops, no, don't close that. No. All right, fine. Be that way. Be that way. Okay. So now we're going to do one that's just a little bit more complicated. So let me get this out of the way. And get that out of the way. All right, so here's one that's probably a little bit more complex, but also probably closer to the types of things that you're going to need this for. So let's say, for example, again, that you are working for Amazon, okay, and they're not happy. They're getting a lot of complaints about their login process. So you're like, okay, so the first thing you do is you come in here and you're going to capture this. Okay, but you're going to need a couple because you've got a couple of views to work with. So come in here and oops, let me go back a second here. So you're trying to work like your customer. So the customer comes in here. Now you can actually see, now this is one that's a little tricky, right? Because every time I mouse out to go get the capture, it's going to be gone. So if you look over here, you can program Snagit or whatever to capture tool you're doing to trigger on a keyboard sequence. Now I just use print screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to do the hover and I'm going to leave the mouse there, okay? And then I'm going to come to my keyboard and I'm going to hit my print screen. Now I've got the view I want, right? Because the hover state has maintained and now I've got the view. And so you can come in and you can do, you know, the drag, or you can just actually just click here and it'll grab the whole thing for you. Okay, so that's one more that we need. Now let's keep going because we need to get in here. We're going to go to this one. Okay, so this is maybe the problem that they're having is that the new customers are clicking on that sign in like I just did, and then they're like, but wait, I don't see, I thought I was going to be able to create an account and all that, because maybe they're not seeing this, okay? So your job here at this point is just to screen cap this one. All right, and then we're going to go back and grab the other view, which is this one. Pretty simple. Let me know if I'm going too fast or if I'm confusing anybody, because that's not my goal. My goal is to remove the confusion. So please jump in the comments if I'm confusing you. All right, so now we have 1, 2, 3, we have 4 screens, right? So let me bring my editor back up, which I just closed. Let me go full screen. Okay, so now you're, as a BA, you're kind of going to be thinking through the process. Okay, so if the customer starts here, all right, they seem to be finding this based on analytics. Excuse me. Allergy season is this far away. So you're looking at it, and you're like, okay, well, based on analytics and the reporting that we've done in the testing, so this part of it I think we're okay with, so we don't necessarily have to worry about it. But you keep it in here because maybe this is going to be a part of the flow that you're going to show in your requirements document. So you're like, all right, this one's okay. Let's take a look at the next one. So you're looking at this one, you're like, okay, we're getting reports that the customers are confused. They thought that by clicking they were going to be able to create an account, but they don't see the fields. They're not noticing this. It's not standing out enough. And that this is the view really that customers are going to create a new account off of. So one solution to this problem would be to put the two together, to make it very clear that you can do either or. Now you have to keep in mind that while the pain point is definitely on the new customer creating an account, that's the type of thing that you only do once generally on an account or on a tool or whatever. So when you're going to apply, we talk a lot about the 80-20 rule, that you're always going to want to go with the solution that works for 80% of your audience, and if you can, you do what you can for the other 20. So in this scenario, your 20% or less are the people that are going to go through the sign up process, the create a new account process. So you don't want that to become the main focus. You want that to be there and be available, but you want the main focus always to be the sign in, because that's what you want your customers to do. You want them to sign in so they can go ahead and complete their tasks. So the first thing I would do is I would come over here and make sure I've got my autofill selected, and it is because we're still in the same session, but just to remind you, oops, sorry, let me take my picture off. You can't see the tools if I do that. Actually, what I can do, does that show up all right? No, that's not going to be big enough. Okay, that's fine. So over here in the tools, just remember that you want to come over and make sure you've got the autofill selected so that you don't have to keep going in and cleaning and filling in your backgrounds. So the first thing that I would do is I would remove this, right? And then I would maybe move this over here. And my goal is to bring this in. Now, you see that there's a problem right away, right? Because you're like, well, okay, I don't have the space to do this. So sometimes you're going to want to work in reverse. So I started here because logically this is the way I'm thinking. I'm walking through the process the way a customer would, right? But as far as making the changes go, you might be better off making the changes, to this one, because this is the one that's got more space to work with. So what I would do is I would go here. We'll do that one in a second, and move this over to the right. And again, I'm just going to eyeball it because this is not supposed to be pixel perfect. And we all agree, right? Pixel perfect doesn't need to happen on the web. It needs to be fluid. All right, so I'm going to put this one here, and then I'm going to come back here and grab this guy and just do a copy. Whoops, I'm sorry. I said I was going to do from the mouse control. And paste it in and position it. Okay? So you're like, okay, great, I'm done. Except you're not really, because you've got this piece down here that says already have an account, sign in. Well, that doesn't apply anymore now, because in this view that you're suggesting, both of them are here, so there's no place for them to go. So what you're going to want to do is just come down here and take this puppy out of here. Now, but you see, if I just cut it, so I was just going to cut this. I don't know if you can see it on the screen because it's real light, but there's actually a bottom to the box here. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the content that I don't want, and it'll fill in. And then I'm going to grab the little bottom here of the bottom to end the box, the corners and the very bottom. And I'm just going to move this up. Sorry, I had to lean in a little bit to see this. Okay, and I'm going to line this up the best I can. You know, close is good enough. And then I'm going to come back here and remove the pieces I don't need. Oops, that didn't work. Hang on. I am noticing with the new version, it seems like I have to flatten it more often, and I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so now you've got it set up so that you can show that the customer would start here, right? So you could bring this view unedited into your flow or into your requirements document. You say, okay, the customer can still come here, but now does this make sense? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, this is sort of a 6 of 1/2 dozen of the other kind of scenario, because you could just leave this and have both of these go to your new view, or you could come in here and, you know, maybe change this to be, you know, sign up / register or something like that. For right now, we're going to leave it. I'll come back and I'll show you how you can do that in a second. Okay, and then they would come here and they'd be ready to go. Now, if you're like, okay, I kind of like this, but I think like we need a separator here or something, there are shapes up here that you can come and select. So like I can select the black and maybe put a bit of a rule here. Okay, and if you're like, oh, that's a little too heavy, oops, I'm sorry, let me take my picture off again. That one. Oh, okay, I am off. So you can, while you've got this selected, you're like, okay, I don't really like the black. You can come over to the fill and maybe pick a light gray. So you can see it kind of works. Now, again, you know, because of who I am. Whoops, sorry, wrong tool. Selection. Bring me back. Hello again. So you can see it like, you know what? I don't really like that this is down so low. And again, you know, whether or not you have to worry about it on this level is up to you and your situation. You know, your environment. You know, because I do this for a living, it makes me a little twitchy to leave it up here. So I would probably come in here and I would just probably bring this down a little bit. Again, doing the shift and the down arrow, and that way I could get it lined up a little bit better. There we go. Just like that. Yeah, that's good enough, right? And my words line up. Now, yeah, see, their spacing is a little bit off, but I would leave that for now. I do think that this, I would have the developers check this, because it looks to me like this font might be a little bit high, but who knows? Maybe not. Maybe I'm just looking at it wrong. So, you got that. You can save it if you want. Not gonna actually save, but this way you've got the whole thing here. Pretty simple. So it's real easy. The people who are signing in can do it right here. Go through the usual process. The people who are creating an account don't have to search. It's right here in the same place. And like I said, whether you want to customize this or not, you could still bring them to the same view. Or if you really wanted to keep this as a separate one, you could have the customer start here one go to, and I didn't save a copy, which I forgot to mention, you should always do. You could, bring them right to here, or you could bring them to a view that only has this. It's all about what's going to work best in your environment for your customer base. Your mileage may vary is the best thing I can tell you. All right, so let me talk now about, let's say that, they like it, but they're not happy with this button now, because they want to go, the business, you presented this, they love this, they like this idea much better, but then they're like, but now we have to do something about this. And you're like, okay, no problem. I can jump in and do that too. So I should have shown you this before. And I usually, when I'm not doing this on a live stream, automatically make a duplicate. So I come up here and I do duplicate, because generally I like to save my original screen captures, because usually what I end up doing is I present the before and after, whether we're doing it just, live in a boardroom so we can walk through the processes, or in the documents or whatever. I just find that kind of helps people stay oriented, because it's so funny when you're working with people on these kind of projects. they're probably the people who are in the site or on the tool least of all. And so that when people try to work from their memory, that's always a bad idea for your projects. You always want to show them the concrete so that everybody has the same picture in their head. So I always make a copy so I have the original, and then I have in the duplicate I make the changes so that we can do a comparison. So all right, so I made a duplicate of this. So now, you know, the question is like, okay, they don't want to change these things, but they're afraid that this is going to be confusing. So one option would be to remove this, right? Because maybe you're going to combine the whole thing, but maybe you want to change this from sign in to sign in/register to make it clearer. So you're like, okay, but that's got a gradation. That's going to be a problem. It is, but here's a real easy way to deal with this. Let me see. Let's zoom in a little bit. Oops. Is that too zoomed in for you? How's that? Is that good? Okay. I'm going to take my picture away because I'm going to show you the tools we're using. All right. So let's say you need to change this button from sign in to sign in/register. And you're like, okay, what am I going to do? Probably the default thing here, you could go in and you could select this and you can delete it and it would fill in because I have the fill in option selected. And you see it did a nice job. Even though it was a gradation, it handled it just fine. Here, I'll show you that again because that is pretty cool. Just flatten it again. So, like, you know, even if you took a big chunk, let's really push our luck. Let's say for some reason you did this. It still took it. And it still did a really nice job. This is why I recommend Snagit without reservation. And there's not a lot of tools I do that with. But this one is freaking magic. Okay, but let's say that's not what you wanted to do in this case. Let's just say, in this case, what you really wanted to do was just, you know, move this over and just add the word. So there's a couple ways to do it. One would be to just kind of move it and try it and see how it goes. The other would be to actually go ahead and add the text and then make the move. So let's try it that way. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to draw a text box. Now over here on the right, you can change the font, you can change the font size, the line width, the color of it, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to leave it at Arial because, again, this is the kind of stuff that we're not doing necessarily final comps. Let's assume in this example that the the user interface team is going to actually take care of it. Maybe the graphic design team is going to take care of the details, and you just need to communicate the idea. You'll notice in addition to the tools options being here, they're also right next to the tool block when you have it selected. So that's just another way to get to it. So I'm going to make it black because that's the color that we've got here. We can see right away that 24 point is probably going to be a little large. So again, I just guesstimated, you know, like I just kind of get it somewhere in the general area and figure it out as I go. So yeah, let's try that. So let's do this. Oops. Why didn't it pick up the... Not sure why it didn't pick up the color. Murph, stop. Okay. And you're like, well, that's not how it's supposed to look. You're right. So in Snagit, I find that it works better if I'm going to change the fonts at all to have the whole thing selected. In theory, you should just be able to select the container and have it work, but I like the extra insurance of knowing that I've got the right thing selected. So in this case, let's see, if we go down lower, that's pretty good, but I think I'm going to go 11. Oh, it won't let me. Well, that's interesting. Let's see, can I override it here? Yeah, okay. So here, for some reason, it's not letting me. Usually I can just double click on it and change the number. Oh, all right. But it's not. But if I come over here to the main control panel, I can make it 11 point. And I think that's a better match. But again, how much you want to stress over that is up to you. And maybe that is too small. So how do I check to see if it's too small? Whoops. Sorry, I forgot. I was doing stuff with my niece and we were doing funky stuff. Let me fix that. So let me show you why that happened. The reason that happened is because I have the outline turned on and I have the shadow turned on, if you look over here. So if I click here, that'll turn off the shadow. And if I click here, why is that not going away? I thought there was an X on that. Okay, so I'll pick the clear. So anytime you see something with like the little checkerboard pattern, that means it's transparent. So I'll just do that. There we go. That's better. And I don't actually have to do that. But so the way that I check to see if my fonts are close, and again, this may be too much for some of you, but I just kind of hold it over here and see how it lines up. And I'm like, okay, so the letters are approximately the right size. So that's okay. So I can come here now. Yeah, you know, it's looking a little heavier. That's got a lot to do with the way that the fonts are being rendered inside this tool, which will be different from the way the fonts are rendered on the live site. You can play with this if you want to. Like for example, if I come in here and I change the line width a little bit, that brings it a little bit closer. Bring it down a little bit more even. Yeah, that's pretty good. But again, whether or not you want to go to that level is totally up to you. So all I'm doing here is I just, whoops, come on. You see it's still active, so I can still go back and grab it. And so I can position it here. And again, I can use the keyboard if I want to, dial it in a little bit more. And I'm like, yeah, okay, so that's pretty good. But of course, now everything's shifted to the right. So I had mentioned before, let me bring me up, about flattening. So the way to look at this, so right now the fact that this is still available, like I can click on it, you got to think of it as like a layer. So you've got your main screen capture, right? And then you put the text on and that's become, ooh, wow, that, sorry, the color got really weird there. Okay, so you've got your main screen capture and then when you put your text on, that's a layer that's sitting on top of it. Right now it's separate. That's why I can move it all around any place I want. Once you get it where you want it, you can keep going if you're adding other elements and all that, but when you start to work with elements that are pretty close, or like what we're going to do next, which is we need to move this whole block and center it better, what you need to do is what they call flattening it. So it takes this layer that's on top of it and it meshes it in so it becomes one single picture again. And to do that, let me see, can I do that from here? Yes, I can. Okay. So in this case, it's if I right click and I select flatten all, that's going to take it from 2 layers and make it 1 again. Okay. And there's a keyboard command for it too. Okay, so now this is 1 image. You see when I'm hovering over it, it's not letting me select it anymore. Even though I still have the text tool, which you can see with that little A on the crosshairs. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go back to our favorite tool, the selection tool. Again, I'm going to verify that it's on autofill. And I am going to just grab this. And again, I'm just going to drag it to the point where it looks kind of centered to me. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. And there you go. You've taken it. So now the process would be, if you want to walk through it, customer comes to the regular page. Now they're going to come in and see a sign in register option. And when they go to that sign in register option, they'll go to this page. And that, my friends, is it. That is the quick and dirty version of creating your own wireframes / comps. Now, technically these are not wireframes, but when I do this kind of a quick version, I don't call them comps either, because comps implies a higher, why did that come up? That comps implies a higher level of fidelity, a more realness to the example. And since this is just, cutting and pasting and slamming things around, and they might not be, exactly right, lining might be a little bit off, that kind of thing. So that's why I tend to call these wireframes, even though they're not the black and white lines kind of thing, just because I think it keeps the expectation a little bit lower, because there's sort of a hierarchy to it. It's like wireframes, it's comps, it's high fidelity comps, and then like an interactive prototype. So by doing this, you've got it, but to do, you can just save it down as a file. If you want to just copy and paste it into, a Word doc or whatever you use, you could just, do your usual copy and paste with it. But it's a lot of power, for $50 tool. And it will also help in your process, because you can be all sitting around a room and be talking about this kind of stuff. But when you do that, you risk the chance of everybody having a different picture in their head. So by doing this, going through the process, I've even done this live. So I've been in the meeting room while things are being discussed, and they're talking, arguing maybe about this version, that version, and doing this. And what I'm doing quietly usually is just doing it, and then actually saying, okay, I've heard everything you've been saying, throwing this up on the screen and saying, okay, is this what you meant? And then everybody's focused on one version of the story and reacting to one version, and instead of everybody editing in their head and not getting the same image. Plus, this is the kind of thing you can send out in your meeting notes after the fact to say, okay, we had this meeting, we discussed these things, here are all the bullet points, and this is what we decided on. Please agree or disagree before we move forward. Sound good? Let's just see what we're going on here. I think we're all okay. If I went too fast, if you want me to go over it again, let me know. Which is the best? Appreciate if you let us know. Okay, Canal. So you asked over on, I don't know why this didn't come up. Ah, it did come up, okay. Send and comment. Whoops. Come on. There we go. Okay, so Canal asked over on YouTube, which is best? Appreciate if you let us know. I'm not sure what you're asking. Are you asking which tool is the best? So just give me a little more detail. I'll be happy to answer it. If you're asking about what tool is the best, I unabashedly recommend Snagit to everybody. There's a Mac version, there's a PC version. They've even actually, I haven't played with this too much, but they've added in some functionality that lets you screen cap from mobile devices, which is pretty nifty. But so yeah, just let me know if that's what you mean, because if it's not, I'm happy to answer the question. I'm just not exactly sure what you're asking here. All right, let me just check around on the other ones while he is responding. All right, so it looks like we're good. Oh, sorry, I got to check over on Periscope. What do we got here? Poor Lachu? Thank you for joining over on Periscope. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in, because I do catch them on the phone now. So that problem has been partially solved. All right. Let me just see if he got a chance to answer that question. Tell you, this Chromebook is really awesome. All right, so I'm hoping, Canal, that the question was what tool to use, and that this is the one I recommend. It is Snagit. Let me bring their site up. So the company that makes it is TechSmith. Oops. But if you just search for Snagit, it comes up. Yeah, so TechSmith is the name of the company, and the tool is Snagit. Really powerful, but the nice thing about it is you don't have to use that power until you're ready to. You can just jump in and start taking screen captures and start doing this kind of editing without a whole lot of learning. They do have really awesome tutorials. So if you do want to use more, or if you're curious about more, I'm sorry, I should bring up. I broke the page. I didn't show it to you. Duh. Okay. Wait, whoa, this one. Here. So this is the Snagit website. It's TechSmith is the name of the company. If you look at the pricing, where did I see it? Right there. It's $50. You know, there's business licenses and all that kind of stuff. And then when you're doing the upgrades, it goes even cheaper. Do they listen? I'm just looking to see. Oh, here's the upgrade pricing. Yeah, so once you buy it, you can just upgrade it. Now, the other nice thing about this is, unlike certain other companies, Adobe, you don't have to buy a subscription. You buy this tool and you can use it for as long as you want. Okay, my dad is still using a version that he bought like 8 years ago. Because if it's working for you and you don't need the stuff that they're offering in upgrades, you don't have to upgrade. It remains a viable, usable product, which is wonderful. And I'm so grateful that they're still doing that, because a lot of people are following the bad example of Adobe. And in case you don't know, so the problem I'm having with Adobe is the fact that they've made it impossible to just buy the tool and use it for as long as you need to. They're forcing everybody into subscriptions. And the problem with that is, suppose you have a bad month. Suppose you're an independent contractor, okay, and you have a bad month and you need to cut expenses for a little while you're waiting for things to fill in or your pipeline to catch up. Then you lose the ability to use your tools. So that puts you into a spiral, because how can you make how can you make money off of your work if you can't use your tools? And if you can't use your tools, how do you make the money to pay for the tool? And it makes me angry. I understand that it's great for them, but it's terrible for us. If anything, because I understand that, there's a benefit to it. If you only need to use a tool for a month, you can just go in and pay for it for a month. I totally get that. I am fine if they would just give you the option. Say, okay, you can buy it and use this version with no upgrades for this price, or you can pay for the monthly subscription and constantly get the updates, and really they're not updating it that often. Okay. Alrighty. Let's see. So, Adam has a question. What is comps short for? So thank you, because, that's what we do, right? We get into an industry, we start using the lingo, we forget not everybody has the translation guide. Okay, so comps is actually a term that comes from graphic design. It goes way back to when all this stuff was not digital and all being done manual. And what it referred to was composites. So it was either a composite drawing or art. And if you know any old school graphic designers, maybe you've seen this, but what they used to do is they would do their art on, like some sort of a board, foam core or something that had some stiffness to it, was still light. And they would literally put elements, on the page, and they would use, I can't remember what they called the overlays, but it was like a clear plastic overlay. And they would put their pieces of art on it, because that way they could shift. Again, the color shifting is so weird every time I lift my hands. But what they would do is they would do it on these layers. So they could flip them over and show people as they went, but it also left them the ability to shift things around, because this was all pre-digital. So that's where, composites became comps over time. The other version, because there's two stories, the other is comprehensive. That's, some people think that that's where it really came from. Because again, it was the same kind of a thing. You know, it was still doing the artboards all, but some people called it comprehensive. Some people called it composite art. And it all just got shortened down to comps, and so that's what everybody calls it now. So I hope that makes it a little clearer. It's one of those terms that started from the manual days pre-digital and has just been brought over into the digital world. Okay, that was a great question. Thanks so much for that, Adam. I appreciate that. All right, let me do one more quick flip through here. And I think we're good. If that wasn't, if your connection dropped or whatever, and I didn't answer the question that I thought you were asking, you can feel free to reach out. You can always find us. Let me see, do I have the... Okay, you can go to thebazone.com. There's a forum there. You can go on Twitter. You can DM us or just tweet at us. We also have an email address, which I don't know if I have it here. Let's see. Let me look real quick and see if I've got it. I don't think I do right now. This is what I get for setting up new stuff. But okay, so you can also reach us at therealbazone@gmail.com. So any of those, if I didn't answer the question, you can ask in the Facebook. I'm not sure if you can go back in YouTube and ask questions again, but if you do, I will check. I'm not clear whether or not they've made that possible. I know there's been talk, but I don't know if they've done it. Alrighty. Well, it looks like everybody is good. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please make sure you come visit us. Make sure that you turn on, like, follow, hearts, whatever platform you're on, turn on notifications. And you can, that way you'll get notified when we're going to go live. I'm also looking, do we have, let me try this one again. And one of them I have, nope, okay, nothing's going to cooperate. Okay. The other thing you can do is, can I bring this up? There we go. I knew it was hiding away. You can also join our mailing list. Sorry. It's going to take me a couple of weeks to get everything working again with the new camera setup. But you can also join the mailing list. So that's thebazone.com/mailing list. That way you'll get emails. I know nobody got an email this week, and I do apologize for that. There was no promotion for this show because until like 2 hours ago, I wasn't sure there was going to be a show. But if you join the mailing list, you'll know about what shows are coming up. We treat you guys like our insiders, so we give you the inside line on anything new that we're doing, anything special that's coming down the pike, so on and so forth. And you can rest assured we don't sell the list. Nobody has access to it. The only purpose for our mailing list is so we can communicate with you. So those are just a couple options if you want to reach out, if you want to stay in touch, which we hope you do. If you know anybody who would find this helpful, I do hope that you will share it, let them know that we're here, because that's word of mouth is our best advertising. That's the way that we find the people that are going to be helped by this. Along those lines, if you find this type of content helpful, please let us know. Because we're looking at what we're going to do for the next quarter and then going into next year. So if you'd like more of these hands-on sessions, let us know. We're happy to do it. If you want more, if this isn't working for you so much and you really just want more of the theory and approach kind of stuff, that's fine too. We're just trying different things because we want to make sure we're giving you the answers and the tools that you need to help your projects go smoother. Because that's what this is all about, right? We're here to help each other. All right, one more flip through here, see if anybody else has got any questions. And if not, I am going to wrap this up and feed the puppy, which he enjoys. All right, I think we're good. Looks like everybody, if you think of any questions later, please feel free to reach out. That's what we're here for. We're happy to help. We make a point of going through and checking comments every day in case somebody needs a hand. All right. Okay, thanks so much for coming by. I really appreciate it. I hope that you're going to come next week. I hope Marianne is going to be back. I think that's going to happen. And so that means she'll be back on score because I still need a couple of weeks to get my other thing finished. It's no big secret, it's just not interesting. So, but it's like, it's turning into like 20 hours a day, so that's okay. We all have these projects, where there's this big crush at the end, and that's what I'm in right now. So I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I know it's not a train. Okay. All right, everybody, thank you so much. We will see you next week, whether it's Marianne or me, Marianne, however. But every Thursday, 8 p.m., every Tuesday, 8 p.m., you find us on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Yes, I got them all done. Okay, have a good one. Bye-bye.